Rain hammered against the canvas of my tent with a relentless rhythm, drumming a chaotic symphony that made it nearly impossible to think. The storm had come out of nowhere, sweeping across the barren plains of Zarin, nine like a living, angry entity. I had been out checking the energy shields on the perimeter when the first drops fell, and by the time I scrambled back to the relative shelter of my tent, I was soaked through and chilled to the bone. I expected the usual silence, the muted hum of my equipment, and the comforting solitude of my camp. What I didn't expect was her. She stumbled in without warning. Water poured from her hair and the iridescent armor that covered her limbs, droplets scattering across the floor. Her movements were graceful despite the storm's assault, a blend of feline agility and human fragility. She froze for a moment in the middle of the tent, her vivid green eyes wide, scanning me as if to measure the danger I posed. We don't have rain where I'm from," she whispered, voice trembling, as if even speaking required energy she barely possessed. I blinked, caught somewhere between disbelief and fascination. "You what?" She shook her head, shivering, and I saw the faintest wisp of steam rising from her skin as the warmth of the tent collided with the cold, searing rain outside. "We don't have this, not like this," she said, her words hesitant, almost childlike in their simplicity. Something in her tone tugged at me, an unspoken plea hidden beneath alien phrasing. Without thinking, I stepped forward and offered my hand. "Come here. Sit. Warm up." She hesitated, eyes darting to the ground and then back to me. The pause stretched on like an eternity, and then, with a cautious grace, she took my hand and let me guide her to the small cot in the corner of the tent. Every step she took was deliberate, careful, as if each movement was being catalogued and understood for the first time. I grabbed a spare blanket from the corner and draped it over her shoulders. The moment it touched her, she flinched slightly and then relaxed. The warmth seemed foreign to her, like a language she had never learned but suddenly understood. "Name?" I asked, keeping my voice soft. She hesitated again. "New York RA," she said finally, her lips barely moving. "From Kaylee's." I nodded slowly. "I'm Jaren. You're safe here." She looked at me, her alien features softening in the dim light of the tent. Her eyes held stories I could not hope to comprehend, worlds I could never see, battles I could never fight, and a loneliness that mirrored my own. "I've never felt rain," she admitted, her voice a whisper against the storm. "Not like this." I knelt beside her, careful not to crowd her. "It's just water," I said, trying to make it simple. "It falls, it soaks you, and then it stops. That's it." Her gaze lingered on mine, but I could see she didn't quite understand. Rain for her wasn't just water. It was a phenomenon, alien and terrifying in its randomness. Her entire species came from a planet where liquid fell only as condensation in controlled chambers, where the elements were tamed, measured, and predictable. Chaos, she realized, was something she had never faced. I reached out, brushing a wet strand of hair from her face. She flinched slightly, but didn't pull away. "There's nothing to fear," I said gently. "You're with me now." Her lips parted in a silent question, and for a moment, the storm outside seemed to pause, listening. Why do you care?" I shrugged, unsure if my answer would make sense to her. "Because I can. Because no one else does. Because you matter." She froze, the words catching in her throat. I could see her mind racing, trying to parse the meaning of my human emotion. And then, almost imperceptibly, a tear formed in the corner of her eye, catching the dim light like liquid emerald. We stayed like that for a while, the storm a distant roar against the soft intimacy of shared silence. She shifted slightly under the blanket, still damp, still shivering, and I knew that even something as simple as warmth, something I had taken for granted all my life, was a gift beyond measure to her. "Do you always help strangers?" she asked finally, her voice barely audible. I smiled faintly, looking out at the rain-slicked horizon. "Not always, but I help those who need it. You needed it." She studied me then, eyes narrowing slightly as if trying to read my intentions, to understand the human mind. "You are different from them," she said, "from the others on this world." "And you," I replied softly, "are different from anyone I've ever met." Her shoulders relaxed slightly, and I saw the faintest hint of a smile, one that was almost human, almost shy. "I don't understand your ways," she admitted. "Everything here, it's strange. The rain, the air, the ground." "Then let me teach you," I said. "I'll show you everything. You don't have to be afraid." She hesitated and then nodded, a small, almost imperceptible motion. Her trust was a fragile thing, newly given, but I would honor it. "I will try," she said. We spent the next hours in quiet companionship. I helped her dry her hair with a towel, offered her hot water in a small metal cup, and showed her how to adjust the tent flaps to keep the wind and rain at bay. With every simple task, I saw her begin to understand the world she had stumbled into, a chaotic, untamed planet that was nothing like Kaylee's. And yet, she adapted, learned, and even smiled. Later, as the storm began to subside, I stepped outside to check the perimeter. She followed, her steps cautious, her eyes scanning the sky with awe. The first rays of dawn broke through the clouds, catching the raindrops still clinging to the tent and the ground, turning the world into a shimmering mosaic of light. "It's beautiful," she whispered, more to herself than to me. "Yes," I said, standing beside her. "It's messy, unpredictable, but beautiful." She turned to look at me then, her eyes reflecting the golden light, and for the first time, I saw a vulnerability there that was completely human. You think I could live here?" "You already are," I said. "Step by step. You don't have to do it alone." She hesitated, and then did something I didn't expect. She reached out and took my hand. Her touch was gentle, warm, and entirely alien, yet it grounded me. "Thank you," she said softly. "For what?" I asked, though I already knew. "For letting me be afraid," she said, "and for not leaving me out in the rain." I smiled, feeling a strange warmth spread through me that had nothing to do with the storm or the dawn. "Then stay," I said simply. "You don't have to face it alone anymore." Her lips curved into a small, shy smile. "Then, I will." The storm had passed, but its mark remained in the air, in the damp earth, and in the quiet bond forming between a human and an alien who had never known rain. Together, we stood on that muddy plain, facing a world that was chaotic, unpredictable, and completely alive. And somehow, amidst the uncertainty, there was trust, there was warmth, and there was a fragile, undeniable connection that neither of us could ignore. For the first time, she had experienced the rain. And for the first time, I realized that sometimes the simplest acts, offering shelter, warmth, and understanding, could be more powerful than any technology or weapon. In that small, soaked tent on Zare 9, two strangers became something more. And the storm, which had begun as a threat, had become the catalyst for a story neither of us would ever forget.